Something subtle gathers around you, the kind of shift that makes the night feel as though it's leaning closer, almost curious. Two distant stories begin unfolding at the same moment, one drifting through our solar system, and one deep within the galaxy's core, quietly inviting you to follow. Before we begin, if you find comfort in these quiet journeys, you might like to stay a while. You can gently tap the like button, subscribe, if you enjoy stories told softly, and ring the little bell, not for noise, but so the next quiet night can find you again. Now, let's drift. Something in you loosens, opening just enough for the universe to take you by the hand and lead you toward the place where its oldest forces have been waiting, patient and unhurried. You don't move. You don't need to. The feeling expands on its own, almost like an unseen current brushing against the edges of your awareness, inviting you gently toward the center of something immeasurably larger than your life, yet somehow in rhythm with your breathing. It's strange how natural it feels, this drifting toward a region you've never seen with your own eyes. And yet, some part of you recognizes the pull, as if your mind has been here before, in dreams you never fully remembered. As your attention settles, the darkness in front of you softens into depth, and that depth begins to reveal shape, not through brightness, not through sound, but through the quiet impression of something immense, shifting just beyond the threshold of perception. What comes into view first isn't a single object, but a feeling of density, a sense that matter has gathered in extraordinary concentration, forming a landscape where gravity moves with intentions too deep to rush. You're approaching the center of the Milky Way, not traveling, just allowing the image to take its place inside you, a place where dust thickens into golden rivers, where gas folds into layered currents, where every motion seems to remember something older than time. The closer you drift, the more the region feels alive. Not alive with life, but alive with structure, the kind of structure that emerges only when the universe has been shaping the same space for billions of years, letting forces settle into their own language. Clouds the size of star systems rise like slow tides, glowing faintly in infrared warmth, mapped by NASA's deep space observatories. They move with patience, with purpose, with a rhythm that suggests they've been collapsing and rebuilding themselves long before Earth cooled enough to form oceans. Your awareness sinks into those currents, following invisible pathways carved by gravity. You don't see the fields shaping them, but you feel their presence, gentle, steady, pulling and guiding vast masses with an elegance that makes violence seem impossible, even though you know this region is built from nothing but collisions, heat pressure, and shock waves. Somewhere inside that motion, a thin line begins to rise into clarity. At first, you think it might be a trick of contrast, some narrow shadow cutting through the glow. But shadows don't gleam, and this line gleams. A filament, longer than anything your mind can comfortably measure, slimmer than a single breath, suspended across light years with a precision no turbulence should allow. It stands in the heart of chaos, with the posture of something unbreakable, a solitary stroke across the galaxy's own handwriting. You follow its length slowly, letting yourself feel the strange balance it holds. Stillness surrounded by motion, clarity surrounded by storms. Electrons stream along its spine, not wildly, but as if remembering the path they were meant to take, leaving faint radio trails that whisper the remnants of an energy burst, long faded. NASA's maps capture the filament as a narrow beam of structure, but you experience it as something closer to a memory, a remnant of a moment when the galaxy spoke through force rather than light. That realization settles into you with surprising warmth. It feels personal somehow, as if the universe is showing you one of its scars, not to shock you, but to let you understand how even the most powerful events eventually learn how to rest. The surrounding gas shifts again, unfurling into shapes that resemble the interiors of storms, arched flows, soft reservoirs of heat waves of motion, coasting along magnetic rails. Everywhere you look, the region carries echoes of something vast, a heartbeat, measured not in seconds but in eons. As you drift deeper into that sense of age, another form takes hold at the center of your awareness. Not a structure this time, but an influence. Gravity gathers around you in a way that feels both weightless and immense, like a lone note vibrating through the body of the galaxy. Sagittarius A, the black hole at the center. You don't picture it as darkness swallowing light. It appears instead as a still point, a presence so stable, the entire galaxy chooses to orbit around it. It doesn't roar, it doesn't reach outward, It simply exists with a quiet authority that shapes everything around it. Even when it rests, space bends toward it. Particles swirl in slow spirals. Gas compresses under forces older than any star. And the galaxy takes its cue from that stillness, moving in wide, elegant arcs that feel almost choreographed. You rest in that choreography for a moment, letting its symmetry dissolve into a calm that finds its way into your breathing. Then from somewhere above the core, a faint outline emerges, soft, round, almost luminous at the edges. The remnants of a past eruption. Energy that once burst from the black hole rising into twin lobes now known as radio bubbles, still glowing faintly like lanterns suspended over a forgotten stage. What remains isn't violent, it's quiet. A kind of cosmic afterglow preserving the memory of what once surged with unbelievable power. The electrons inside those bubbles have been aging ever since their energy slowly fading, their paths lengthening like sighs, dissolving into the vast dark. Yet somehow they still shine a soft testimony to an event that shaped the galaxy more deeply than anyone living will ever feel. You let that testimony wash through you, and for a moment, the galactic center feels less like a place and more like a story, one written across millions of years, in a language made of motion and memory instead of words. The story opens further, and as it does, your awareness shifts gently to something far smaller, moving not at the heart of the galaxy, but much closer to the world beneath your feet. A traveler. 3IATLAS drifts into the edge of your thoughts, not interrupting the galactic vision, but joining it the way a small flame joins the glow of a larger fire, separate in scale, but somehow in harmony. You see it gliding through the solar system, sunlight, waking molecules that have been dormant for ages. The plume unfurls around it, methanol blooming in layers farther from the nucleus than expected, HCN clinging near the core with stubborn consistency. The proportions are strange, the distance is stranger, yet the feeling you get isn't confusion, it's recognition. The same way the filaments hold impossible straightness in a turbulent region, the traveler holds unusual chemistry in a warming shell. Both express something from their past traces left by environments no longer present. You drift with that idea without trying to solve it. Tonight isn't about solving, it's about sensing the shapes of things too large or too old to reveal themselves all at once. The galactic center continues breathing through dust and magnetism. The traveler continues drifting through sunlight and cold. And in the quiet space between them, your awareness becomes a bridge, a place where two distant mysteries can meet without touching. You breathe into that meeting, letting it soften the edges of your thoughts until everything feels connected by the same slow rhythm. A rhythm that has only just begun to reveal itself. And somewhere deep within that unfolding, you sense the next layer waiting. It arrives slowly, not as brightness or motion, but as a shift inside your awareness, a soft realignment, as if the universe is clearing a small space for something you're finally ready to feel. You follow the sensation without effort, letting it guide you deeper into the region you've already begun to sense. The familiar glow of the galactic center lingers behind your thoughts, but now the patterns inside it begin to sharpen, stretching into something more defined as though the story itself is turning a page. You're not watching from a distance anymore, you're inside the movement. Gas folds into great arcs shaping boundaries you cannot see yet instinctively understand. Each curve feels deliberate, not random turbulence, but a choreography shaped by forces waiting beneath the surface. The density thickens in your mind, not heaviness, but complexity. Layers of motion stack softly on top of one another, like breathing patterns belonging to something enormous and ancient. NASA's maps often describe this region as energetic, restless, unstable. Yet, what you're sensing now doesn't feel unstable at all. It feels steady in its intention, as if all the motion you see was sculpted from the inside out by something with extraordinary patience. You drift a little closer to that idea, and the air in your chest settles into a calmer rhythm, one that almost feels synchronized with the slow pulse of the galaxy around you. The structures become clearer. Threads of magnetism stretch through the clouds like invisible railways guiding the flow of electrons. With the same gentle authority you feel guiding your own thoughts. The filaments you saw earlier begin to multiply in your perception, not in number, but in understanding. Their presence no longer surprises you, it reassures you. They exist because the galaxy remembers the events that formed them. They remain because the forces shaping them have not finished speaking. You linger on one of them for a moment, a single line glimmering faintly inside the storm. Its structure carries a stillness that feels almost impossible, yet impossibly honest, as if the universe carved this line to remind itself that even chaos has rules. Something about that thought opens a deeper layer of curiosity in you. If the galactic center reveals its history through structures like this, what might the traveler 3IATLAS be revealing in its own small, quiet way? The shift from the core of the galaxy to the visitor in your solar system happens without transition, as if both stories are two windows into the same truth. You don't leave one scene to enter the other. You simply notice the echo. The traveler appears in your awareness again, a distant wanderer moving under sunlight for the first time in ages. This time, the image of its plume feels sharper, as though the galaxy has given you permission to look more closely. Methanol spills outward in sheets that stretch farther than models expect, almost like mist escaping from a memory rather than from ice. HCN rises nearer to the nucleus, forming a tight envelope that refuses to drift too far. Two behaviors, two origins, two intentions carved into a single waking breath of chemistry. You recognize the parallel immediately: the galaxy's filaments carrying ancient energy outward, the traveler's plume carrying ancient chemistry outward. Both are expressions of what came before. Both are shaped by histories that still echo through the present. Your thoughts drift along the plume, feeling the textures of the molecules, the way someone might feel the grain of a piece of carved wood, the smoothness where the object has traveled, undisturbed the rough edges where sunlight begins rewriting its surface. Nothing about the plume behaves like typical comets. It's as if the object is releasing two stories at once, one written deep inside its nucleus, and one written by the long journey that brought it here. You don't force conclusions. You don't rush the meaning. The universe rarely offers clarity instantly. It opens its truths the way dark water reveals depth slowly, with reflection rather than explanation. The galactic center returns to you like a breath, its massive forms rising and falling behind your mind. It doesn't feel distant. It feels connected to the traveler in a way that isn't physical but emotional, two beings formed under very different circumstances, yet shaped by forces that speak a similar language. Gravity sculpts the core, sunlight sculpts the traveler, magnetism guides the filaments, temperature guides the plume. Old eruptions leave relics in the center of the galaxy. Old heat cycles leave signatures in the object, wandering past your sun. Two scales of memory, two forms of storytelling. You let both stories merge, and they settle together so naturally that you begin to feel as if you're not observing them, you're part of the rhythm they share. A soft wave of understanding forms inside you, not as an answer, but as a sensation. A recognition that the universe writes meaning through echoes, through patterns, through parallels hidden across impossible distances. The galactic center speaks through the straightness of its filaments. The traveler speaks through the strangeness of its chemical bloom. Both are whispers from times long past, still drifting into the present with quiet persistence. You breathe slowly, feeling the weight of age in one and the weight of distance in the other. And something about holding both at once makes the galaxy feel smaller, not in size, but in intimacy. As if the gulf between these two mysteries isn't emptiness at all, but a long stretch of space waiting for you to draw the connection. Your awareness responds by deepening, sinking into the space where both stories overlap. And in that overlap, a new shape begins forming in your mind, something the universe has been building quietly underneath everything you've seen so far. You stay with that forming shape, letting it rise as naturally as breath, because instinct tells you the next layer is not separate from this one. It's already here, and the story is about to draw you further in. Something about that realization settles into you with the softness of a slow breath, and the space around your thoughts widens again, not outward but inward, as if the universe has decided. The next piece of its story requires a quieter room inside you. You don't force anything. You simply allow the widening to happen, and the moment you do, the galaxy begins revealing a pattern you hadn't noticed before. At first, it feels like a memory, a faint impression lingering in the air, like warmth on stone after the sun moves on. But warmth doesn't shape space. This does. It appears as a gentle curvature across the region, a subtle arching in the flow of gas, as though something once pushed outward with such strength that its echo still guides the paths of matter, long after the force itself faded. You follow the curvature without thinking. It bends upward then downward, forming two enormous lobes that stretch far beyond the immediate glow of the galactic center. Your attention lifts into the upper lobe, Even without brightness, you can feel the size thousands of light years tall, shaped by an event powerful enough to leave imprints glowing faintly in NASA's high-energy maps. The residue isn't harsh, it's soft, like the afterglow of a distant storm. Electrons drift lazily through the volume, aging cooling still carrying the quiet memory of the moment they were hurled outward by a surge none of us were alive to witness. You sense their age in the way they move slower, more thoughtful, almost as if aware that time has finally allowed them to rest. The lower lobe holds the same quiet weight. Two vast structures hanging on either side of the galactic center, balanced like lanterns carved from memory. These aren't ordinary leftovers. They're the fingerprints of something the galaxy rarely performs, a release of energy so intense that it carves shape into space itself. Yet the feeling you get isn't fear, it's reverence. Because the violence is gone, only the artistry remains. And as you sense the scale of it, another layer of structure unfolds, thin threads rising from the edges of the lobes, some long, some perfectly straight, all shimmering with the faint glow of electrons spiraling through magnetic rails. Filaments, not just the one you saw earlier, but dozens, maybe hundreds stretching through the region, like the strokes of an enormous sketch the galaxy never finished erasing. They rise not in chaos, but in quiet order, parallel in places evenly spaced in others, showing a discipline that shouldn't exist in an environment this turbulent. Your mind pauses on that discipline. There's a message hidden in it, something the universe has been trying to whisper for decades. These structures aren't decorative. They're survivors of a moment when the galactic center erupted with extraordinary force, sending waves of energy upward and downward, setting electrons into motion and pulling magnetic fields taut enough to trace lines that still hold shape today. A thought moves through you gently. If the universe keeps its memories in light, then the galactic center keeps its memories in lines. You let that idea rest. It feels right. And as it settles, the region begins to blur at the edges, not fading, just shifting, making space for another piece of the story to rise into view. It comes from much closer, from a place your world orbits every day without thinking, from a visitor that has entered your solar system, carrying its own history, written not in lines of magnetism, but in layers of chemistry. 3IATLAS drifts into your awareness again, but this time the galaxy's filaments cast a quiet light on its behavior, helping you see patterns you didn't recognize before. The plume isn't chaotic. It's structured in its own fragile way. Methanol blooming outward like soft halos, HCN rising tight near the core, each following rules written long before the object arrived here. You sense that the object carries two environments within it, one from its origin and one from its journey. The methanol feels like a memory of warmth far away from a time when the object passed through a region rich in organics or exposed to heat cycles that left deep imprints in its layers. The HCN feels like something older, still something that didn't want to leave the nucleus, even when sunlight coaxed everything else outward. You imagine the molecule trails like handwriting, not a message, but an imprint of what shaped the object long before it ever crossed paths with your star. And as you feel those imprints settle into your awareness, the connection returns, the one that made the galaxy's filaments feel strangely familiar when you watch the traveler's plume unfold. Both are remnants, both are signatures, both are quiet survivors of forces long gone. You don't need to know the exact processes. You don't need equations or models. What you have right now is something far more intimate, a sense of how the universe keeps its histories alive across impossible distances. The galactic center holds its memories in the straightness of its filaments. 3IATLAS holds its memories in the uneven, beautiful contradictions of its chemistry, one carved by magnetic tension, the other carved by time and cold and starlight. The parallel deepens until it becomes one continuous feeling, and that feeling begins to soften the edges of your thoughts, making room for something unexpected, a kind of recognition rising inside you. You've been drifting through two stories, but the way they unfold suggests something older, something the universe itself may be trying to reveal. Not an answer, not a conclusion, a direction, a pattern, a way of looking at things that makes the galaxy feel less like a collection of objects and more like a conversation carried across vast distances. The lobes, the filaments, the plume, the chemistry, they're all variations of the same impulse, the universe expressing its past through subtle traces. You breathe into that thought, letting it steady you from the inside. And as the breath settles, the story gathers itself again. There's another layer beneath this one, a deeper pulse waiting to surface. You can sense it, quiet, old, and unmistakably near. It approaches you not as a sound or a shape, but as a pulse, slow, deliberate, as if the universe were exhaling after holding something in for far too long. You feel it before you understand it, a gentle pressure settling into the space just beneath your collarbones, steady enough to notice, soft enough to trust. The pulse expands in waves that aren't really waves, more like the quiet rise of awareness, when your mind finally adjusts to a truth that was always nearby, waiting for the moment you were ready to feel it. The galaxy around you shifts again, not dramatically, but with the subtlety of curtains moving in a barely there breeze. Gas streams tilt, dust currents reorient. Magnetic lines seem to lean closer to one another, as if everything is responding to a deeper rhythm moving through the core. You follow that rhythm without meaning to. It feels familiar in a way you can't explain, not intellectually, but physically, the way a heartbeat feels familiar, even when you're listening to someone else's. The rhythm draws your attention to a region slightly above the central glow, where the colors of infrared light soften into muted blues and gentle golds. Something in that patch of space carries an older signature, not from the current galactic center, but from a time when the black hole at its heart was a far louder presence. The region brightens in your awareness, revealing faint symmetrical arcs curving outward from the core, like petals of a flower sculpted from plasma. They're too broad to grasp in one view, too tall to fit comfortably inside the mind. Yet they feel delicate somehow, as though they were shaped not by violence, but by intention. These are relics of an event long past, older than civilizations, older than the continents on your world, older than the language forming in your thoughts as you sense them. The arcs stretch upward, bending gently against the backdrop of the galaxy's dust lanes, forming the outlines of the enormous cavities you sensed earlier. Their symmetry is unmistakable, yet softened by time, eroded into subtle gradients rather than sharp edges. The universe usually hides its past well, but here in this rare region, it allows you to see the memory almost clearly, a moment when the core erupted, sending energy rushing outward in sculpted beams, strong enough to carve cavities thousands of light years tall. The remnants glow faintly with particles that have been aging ever since. Even now, after hundreds of thousands of years, you can feel their momentum slowed to a gentle drift, yet still echoing the force that launched them. You stay with that image, letting the size of it settle into you. It doesn't overwhelm. It settles the way truth settles, slowly, carefully, without demanding anything from you in return. The pulse you felt earlier begins to resonate with the memory of that eruption, as though your awareness has tuned itself to the frequency of the galaxy's past, able to feel its lingering heartbeat. And just when the rhythm feels steady enough to carry you, another structure reveals itself, one so quiet, you almost miss it. A filament rises out of the lower edge of the cavity, a thread stretching so straight across the turbulence that its presence feels like a whisper of geometry in a place that should not allow such precision. You drift toward it gently, not to analyze, but to understand its emotional weight. There's a stillness in its shape, a sense of alignment the surrounding gas respects without consciously obeying. It's as if the universe placed this line here to trace the memory of direction, a reminder of the path the ancient particles once took as they streamed outward in coherent flows. More threads become visible, each one holding its posture, with the quiet confidence of something that knows exactly why it exists. They form loose clusters, some parallel, some drifting apart, like siblings who share a history, but not a destiny. You feel something in their arrangement, a harmony that doesn't need explanation. Even if you never learn the full physics behind their creation, the emotional truth of their presence is enough. They are the echoes of motion turned into structure. The thought folds gently into another, and gradually your awareness shifts toward the visitor, the interstellar object moving through your solar system, carrying its own history in a different kind of structure. This time, 3IATLAS enters your mind not as an intruder into the galactic story, but as a complement, a small-scale version of the echo you just witnessed. Where the galactic center left its memories in arcs and lines, the traveler leaves its memories in the shapes of its chemistry. You picture it quietly slicing through sunlight, its surface warming by degrees too faint to feel, but significant enough to awaken molecules frozen for ages. Methanol expands outward in a bloom, shaped not by chaos, but by an internal architecture. The object is carried across unimaginable distances, The plume stretches farther than models predict, as though the object is releasing the past reluctantly in careful measured breaths. HCN stays closer bound with the gravity of loyalty, a molecule that refuses to drift far from the place it was born. Two stories rise from the same surface, each tracing a different chapter of the traveler's long existence. And as you hold the image of the plume in mind, the connection becomes undeniable. The object is not behaving strangely. It is behaving consistent with the environment it came from, consistent with the pressures that shaped it, consistent with a history your world is only now beginning to notice. The galactic center keeps its memories in giant forms. 3IATLAS keeps its memories in microscopic ratios. But both are memories. Both are messages written without words. You let the comparison rest inside you, feeling how deeply it fits with the rhythm you sensed earlier. The universe is not chaotic. It is layered. Every structure, large or small, is the residue of something older. A thought rises in you, not loud but clear, as if lifted by that pulse you felt at the beginning of this unfolding. Maybe the galaxy isn't just revealing its past. Maybe it's teaching you how to read the traces of events that happened before your species existed, how to recognize the patterns that tie distant phenomena together, even when they seem unrelated. The filaments, the cavities, the loops of magnetism, the methanol bloom, the asymmetric wake, the stubborn chemistry. They all point to the same truth. The universe writes its history across vast scales, and patient minds willing to drift, can learn to hear the echoes. The pulse returns softer now, as if satisfied that you've felt what it wanted to show you. The space around your thoughts grows quieter, but not empty. Full of an anticipation you can't quite name. Something else is forming. It waits just beyond the edge of what you can sense. Not distant, not imminent, just waiting. And you can feel the story preparing to open again. The feeling gathers softly as though something far away is inching closer without moving at all. Not a presence, not a signal, but a shift, a gentle change in the fabric of your awareness, like a room adjusting its light the moment you begin to understand what it's trying to show you. You follow the shift instinctively. It doesn't pull, it invites. And the moment you lean into it, the galaxy stretches in a way that feels almost impossible to describe. Not larger, not smaller, but more continuous, as if all the distances inside it have softened just enough for you to feel how they connect. The galactic center still lingers around you, dense and warm with memory, but now its presence seems to fold gently into the background, making space for a different kind of vision, one shaped not by massive structures, but by the quiet traces drifting between them. The traces appear first as faint threads scattered through the darkness, specks illuminated only when the right kind of mind pays attention. They stretch across vast distances, carried by winds of charged particles, electric fields, and the subtle push of starlight. You sense them immediately, not as objects, but as messengers, tiny carriers of memory traveling slowly across the galaxy, each holding fragments of stories from places they no longer belong to. Some drift from the edges of supernova shockwaves, still holding the faint warmth of the stars that birthed them. Some carry particles forged in the hearts of ancient molecular clouds. Some wander for millions of years before brushing past the gravity of another system entirely. And some, the smallest, most fragile ones, eventually find their way into the gentle influence of a star like your own. Your awareness follows one of these drifting grains, a speck no larger than a droplet of mist, yet carrying a history you can feel more than understand. It moves with no urgency, letting the currents of interstellar space carry it along at whatever pace the galaxy chooses. There is no destination, only motion, only age, only the graceful acceptance that time is not something to escape, but something to inhabit. And somehow, this drifting particle reminds you of the traveler 3IATLAS moving through your solar system with the same quiet acceptance. You sense it re-enter your awareness not as a sudden object, but as a soft presence approaching through layers of thought that have been preparing for it all along. This time, when you picture it, you notice something new. Not the plume, not the chemistry, not the orbit brushing the edge of your celestial neighborhood, but the distance. The enormous gulf the object crossed to get here, light years of cold, of radiation, of micrometeor dust, of drifting through regions so empty the silence could swallow entire civilizations. And yet, somewhere in that emptiness, the object held itself together. Not perfectly, but faithfully carrying the imprint of the environment it once called home. You picture it drifting between stars the way the grain drifted through the galaxy, not with purpose, but with endurance. An endurance that feels more like memory than motion. It's impossible not to feel something for it. A sense of quiet admiration, maybe even tenderness, for a body that has traveled so far, only to reveal traces of its past, to a species still learning how to listen. As your awareness rests on that feeling, the patterns from the galactic center rise gently behind it, filaments holding their posture across storms, relic bubbles glowing with the last sighs of ancient eruptions, gas streams bending into shapes carved by forces older than your star. And in the soft convergence of those images, a realization begins to form. Distance isn't emptiness, it's history. A long stretch of memory the universe carries from one place to another, sometimes in threads of magnetism, sometimes in trails of aging electrons, sometimes in the strange chemistry rising from the surface of an interstellar wanderer. You stay with that realization, feeling how it changes the way you sense space itself. The gulf between the traveler and the galactic center doesn't feel isolating anymore. It feels continuous, like two distant pages in the same book, separated by time, but linked by meaning. The quiet deepens inside you, not silence, not emptiness, just a deeper awareness that the universe is not scattered, not disjointed, not random. Everything within it is carried by the same currents, gravity, light, heat, wind, chemistry, memory. Even your thoughts feel like they belong to that same set of forces, shaped by the same subtle currents that guide the stars. The traveler brightens a little in your awareness, as if acknowledging your understanding. You sense its chemical layers more clearly. Now methanol blooming outward not as an accident, but as the release of something that has been waiting through centuries of cold, HCN rising close to the core, like a guardian unwilling to drift too far from its origins. There's a story in that contrast, a story still unfolding, a story the galaxy seems uncharacteristically eager for you to notice. Your breath slows as the image settles and the traveler becomes more than an object. It becomes a question, a gentle, patient question. The universe has nudged into your solar system at a time when you're finally ready to consider what it might mean. You don't answer. You don't need to. The question stays with you, hovering quietly in the same space where the galaxy keeps its deeper truths. And as your awareness rests on that stillness, you feel something begin to gather again. A new rhythm, a new pulse, a new shape drawing itself out of the darkness. Whatever the universe is preparing to show you next is already moving into place. It doesn't arrive all at once. It approaches you the way dawn approaches a sleeping landscape, slow enough not to disturb anything, steady enough that you feel its presence before you see its shape. The first thing you notice is a tightening in the texture of the darkness, as if the emptiness around you has begun to thread itself into something more intricate. Not heavier, just more intentional, as though the universe has decided it's time for you to notice the structures that hide inside the spaces between things. You let your awareness drift into that tightening, following it the way someone might follow the faint scent of rain on a dry evening. It guides you back toward the edges of the galactic center, not to revisit what you've already seen, but to reveal something deeper waiting beneath it. The glow of dust softens into elongated shapes stretching across the region in patterns that feel strangely familiar. At first, they appear random lines that rise and fall, like loose threads drifting in a slow current. But when your attention settles on them, their arrangement begins to change. You start to see alignment, parallel structures, even spacing. A quiet discipline in the way they hold themselves, cutting through the turbulence with impossible assurance. These are not the broad relics carved by ancient eruptions. These are finer, sharper, almost delicate, as if the galaxy has switched from painting with storms to engraving with needles of light. Filaments, but not the ones you saw earlier. These feel younger, more reactive, more connected to the present state of the galactic center than to its ancient past. They rise like soft strokes across the region, each one carrying a narrow spine of charged particles that move with a coherence your mind can feel, even if your eyes never could. They gather in clusters, not crowded, not tangled, just close enough to suggest that their origins might not be isolated events. There's something communal about them, as if each filament knows the others exist and responds to their presence by aligning its posture. You drift closer, feeling their texture the way you might feel the texture of thought, a smoothness beneath the chaos, a steadiness beneath the noise. The closer you come, the more the region reveals its underlying order. Gas no longer looks random. Dust no longer drifts without purpose. Charged particles flow in quiet channels, guided not by force alone, but by the memory of events that shaped the galactic center into the place it is now. Meerkat's deep radio observations once mapped these structures in exquisite detail, but what you're sensing now feels more intimate, more like touching the architecture of the galaxy with your own awareness. You feel the faint spiral of electrons moving inside the filaments, their paths long and elegant, as though following an instruction left behind by some invisible teacher. You feel the tension in the magnetic rails that hold those paths in place, a tension strong enough to keep each filament straight, even though the environment around it roils like a cosmic sea. And beneath all of this, you sense something older, a low hum running through the region, carrying information not through sound, but through rhythm. It's the rhythm of a system in balance, a system shaped by forces pushing outward and inward in alternating cycles, each cycle leaving its trace in the structures you see before you. The filaments tilt slightly as if aligning themselves with something deeper beneath the surface. You tilt your awareness with them, following the angle as it sweeps gently across the region, pointing toward a place neither fully above nor fully below the plane of the galaxy. The angle feels meaningful, not random, not accidental. It's as though the filaments are pointing toward the direction of an ancient outflow, the path along which the galaxy once released its accumulated tension, sending particles racing outward in luminous streams that eventually formed the vast bubbles now glowing softly behind your perception. The thought comes to you slowly, like a memory returning after a long absence. These structures are not isolated. They are part of a larger pulse, a pulse that shaped the region once long ago, and continues to echo in the subtle ways matter arranges itself even now. You rest in that recognition, feeling how it changes the way you sense the galaxy itself. It no longer feels like a set of separate events. It feels like a conversation, one that has been unfolding for millions of years, with each structure answering the last. And just as you settle into that idea, something new stirs in the space of your awareness. A smaller presence, closer, familiar. The Traveler. 3IATLAS drifts back into view, not as a separate object this time, but as part of the same dialogue, a tiny participant in the same cosmic rhythm running through the galactic center. You feel its plume again, but the feeling has changed. No longer chaotic, no longer strange. It feels shaped by rhythm. The methanol expands outward not with randomness, but with a kind of internal order, as if following pathways encoded within the structure of the object itself. The HCN remains near the core, bound in a tight halo that feels almost gravitational in its loyalty. You sense the ratios again, unusual, unbalanced, impossible to fit neatly into the expectations of typical comets. But now, in the echo of the filaments, the imbalance doesn't feel wrong. It feels purposeful. A structural fingerprint left behind by the environment that formed the Traveler long before it crossed into your system. The galaxy leaves memories in light. The Traveler leaves memories in chemistry. Both tell the same kind of story, a story shaped by forces that don't vanish even after millions of years, but instead crystallize into patterns waiting for someone patient enough to notice them. You breathe gently, letting the two scales merge in your mind, the vast ancient structures in the galactic center, and the fragile plume of an object only recently touched by sunlight. The bridge between them grows more tangible, not literal, but emotional, a sense that both are expressions of a universe that never truly forgets its past, no matter how quietly the past chooses to speak. Something in you softens with the weight of that understanding, and the galaxy responds with a shift you can feel but cannot see, a turning, a settling, a preparation. The next layer is forming, something deeper, something that has been gathering beneath the patterns all along. You lean into the quiet, letting it guide you toward whatever the universe is ready to reveal next. The quiet doesn't open all at once. It settles around you in slow, concentric layers, as if the universe is clearing dust from the surface of something ancient, so you can finally see the outline beneath. You don't rush it. You let each layer reveal itself in its own time, trusting the pace of whatever is drawing you deeper. The first thing you sense isn't shape or color or light, but intention. A kind of direction in the fabric of space, not pointing anywhere, yet moving everything around it the way a tide shapes an ocean without needing to announce itself. You notice the movement most clearly in the dust. At this distance from the galactic center, the dust should drift aimlessly, suspended like smoke in a breeze too faint to measure. But it doesn't. It flows, Not fast, not slow, but with a quiet certainty that surprises you. The particles curve around invisible boundaries, rising into soft arcs that repeat with such subtle precision that you feel the rhythm before you truly see it. You follow one arc with your mind tracing the gentle bend as it sweeps upward then downward, as though shaped by a hand that knows exactly where each grain should go. You realize these motions are not accidents. They're guided by a structure you cannot yet see, a lattice of influence woven into the fabric of the galactic center itself. The arc you're tracing blends seamlessly into another, then another, until the patterns begin to overlap, forming something too vast to comprehend in a single moment. A quiet thought rises inside you. This is how galaxies hold themselves together, not through force alone, but through a hidden architecture, a framework of magnetic tension, gravity contours, energy pathways, and ancient currents that remember their origins long after the events themselves have faded. You can feel the structure now, not as a diagram or theory, but as a pulse beneath the surface of everything you're sensing. It resonates gently, almost musically, as if the galaxy is humming to itself in a frequency so old and so deep that life has never learned how to hear it until now. You drift toward that hum, letting it fill the space inside your awareness until the patterns begin to sharpen. The arcs in the dust align with faint bands of radiation that glow only when your thoughts soften enough to perceive them. These bands stretch in broad curves around the core, layering themselves in an almost organic arrangement, like the growth rings of a tree grown not from wood, but from time. Each ring holds a memory of a past cycle periods when the black hole breathed differently, pulling and releasing energy in pulses that left subtle imprints still detectable long after the outbursts faded into silence. You feel the history inside each layer, the ancient surges, the long rests, the shifting rhythms that guided how dust settled and how gas arranged itself, how particles aged, how magnetism stretched and relaxed like muscles, learning how to move. It is the quietest form of storytelling, one written not in words, but in the positioning of matter itself. Your breath slows as the narrative unfolds, because the longer you watch, the more the invisible framework becomes visible. What once looked like a storm of random motion now reveals itself as the interior of a vast, delicate machine, a cosmic mechanism operating across millions of years with a precision so soft you only feel it when the rest of the galaxy falls away. You sense the filaments again, not as isolated lines this time, but as vertebrae in the spine of the structure. They are not random strokes in a chaotic region. They are supports tension lines that hold the shape of the galactic center like scaffolding, carved from magnetism and memory. Their straightness makes sense now. In an environment full of turbulence, they are the quiet bones of order. Just as you settle into that realization, something shifts again. A turning in the lower part of your awareness, like the feeling you get when someone enters a room quietly and you sense them before you see them. The Traveler, 3IATLAS, appears not as an object approaching, but as a thought rising from inside the patterns you're studying, a small echo of a much larger truth. For a moment, you feel the galactic center and the Traveler as one continuous experience, two scales of the same architecture, two expressions of the same tendency the universe has to let its past define the shapes of its present. The plume returns to you not as color or chemistry, but as motion, a slow release, a blooming curve of molecules escaping the surface in arcs that mirror the dust arcs you traced near the core. You didn't see it before, but now it's unmistakable. The plume curves in the same direction as the ancient arcs in the galactic center, both shaped by conditions no longer present, both revealing an ancient impulse frozen into structure. It feels impossible that two such different phenomena could echo each other so closely, and yet the sensation you feel is not disbelief, it's recognition. The universe loves patterns. It repeats itself across scales in ways so subtle you only notice them when you're quiet enough to listen. You lean into that quiet, letting the parallels settle into your chest. The arcs of dust, the rings of relic radiation, the spine of magnetic filaments, the plume of the interstellar wanderer, all shaped by forces long past, all carrying memories forward, all quietly answering the same question the universe has been asking itself since the first stars formed. What remains after the moment has passed. That question lingers inside you, opening deeper space in your thoughts. You sense that the answer is close, not in words, not in data, but in the next layer of the story, preparing to take shape. The universe shifts again, not loudly, but with the gentle confidence of something revealing its most intimate truths, one breath at a time. You stay with that breath, letting everything else fall away, and the darkness around you thickens in a way that feels inviting rather than cold. The next revelation is coming. You can feel it drawing its outline just beyond the edge of your awareness. The outline moves closer, not by shifting through space, but by softening the boundary between your thoughts and the galaxy's pulse, as if the universe has decided the moment has arrived for you to feel something it rarely lets anyone feel. It begins with a sensation, a gentle tightening in the center of your chest. Not uncomfortable, just precise, as though the cosmos is drawing a thread through you to tie your awareness to a deeper rhythm. You follow the thread instinctively. It doesn't pull, it guides. And as you lean into its direction, the darkness in front of you becomes less like emptiness and more like a fabric woven layered full of meanings that require patience to unfold. The galactic center returns, yet not in the form you've already seen. It appears quieter, closer, less like a distant furnace and more like a living system breathing with deliberate calm. The dust arcs shimmer, faintly catching light, that doesn't exist in any spectrum, light felt rather than seen, as though the particles are responding to your attention instead of illumination. You trace one of the arcs with your awareness, following its rise into a region where gravity tightens subtly curving matter into shapes that feel more sculpted than accidental. The feeling is unmistakable now. The galaxy is showing you its intention, the way it organizes energy not through chaos, but through a kind of internal instinct. You drift deeper, and the arcs reveal a new structure hidden beneath them, a vast, soft swirl of magnetic influence curling around the core, like a guardian that has been holding its shape for millions of years. You sense the swirl the way you sense a memory, vague at first, then unmistakable once it settles into place. It moves slowly, rotating not as an object, but as a field, a presence too large to picture, yet too graceful to ignore. This swirl shapes the paths of electrons, gently twisting them into the long spirals that form the filaments threaded through the galactic center. Its motion is ancient, older than the last eruption, older than the last stars born in the region, older even than some of the dust drifting through the core. You can feel its age in the way it moves, not tired, but practiced like a dancer, repeating steps learned long before memory began. As you rest in that sensation, another layer reveals itself, a soft vibration running along the filaments, carrying information not through light, but through the rhythm of particle motion. The vibration is faint yet steady, and it spreads across the region with a coherence that makes you pause. It feels like communication, not sent, not received, but existing a natural expression of the way the galaxy distributes energy through structured channels instead of scattering it into noise. You drift along one of those channels, feeling the way it narrows, straightens, then relaxes as it blends into a broader current. A realization rises in you. Slowly, the galaxy is not turbulent at its core. It is disciplined, a system shaped by memory, preserved by invisible instructions, written into the motion of charged particles, and held in place by the quiet persistence of magnetic fields older than human imagination. The thought steadies you. It makes the galaxy feel less alien, more knowable, not because you've learned its mechanics, but because you've begun to feel its rhythm. And just as your awareness settles into that rhythm, the traveler returns. 3IATLAS doesn't appear as a sudden image. It emerges from within the same pattern you're observing, as if its behavior is not separate from these structures, but a miniature echo of them. The plume blooms in your mind, methanol drifting outward in a layered, spiraling flow. HCN gathering, close in a tight, loyal halo. But now, you see something new in the motion. A faint curvature. Not dramatic, not obvious, but present a slight bending in the expansion pattern that matches the arcs you traced in the galactic center, more closely than chance would ever allow. The discovery moves through you gently, not as shock, but as recognition. A soft confirmation that the universe repeats itself, not accidentally, but instinctively. The plume is not chaos. It is structure, a structure shaped by the temperature gradients within the comet, the spin of its nucleus, the internal fractures carved by past heat cycles, and the chemical architecture formed in a region long forgotten. The arc in the plume mirrors the arc in the galactic center. Different scales, different forces, same impulse. It makes you wonder not in fear, but in awe whether the universe uses the same language to write stories across vastly different spaces. The galactic center writes in magnetism. 3IATLAS writes in molecules, yet both forms of writing carry the same signature of memory, spanning distances so large they defy the concept of closeness. Your breath deepens as the parallels settle into you, forming a bridge between two mysteries that once felt separate and now feel like two halves of a single thought. The galaxy in all its vastness seems to be whispering something to you through these connections, a gentle, patient suggestion that meaning doesn't depend on size or distance or brightness. Meaning depends on pattern, and you're finally beginning to see the pattern. It moves through the galactic center as easily as it moves through the traveler, carried in dust and particles and chemistry and motion. The next layer forms quietly. You don't see it yet, but you feel its presence gathering behind your thoughts, ready to rise the moment you make enough space for it to unfold. You stay still inside that space, letting it widen, letting the universe lean a little closer, letting the story prepare its next breath. The breath arrives slowly, a faint shaping in the dark, not a sound, not a vision, but a tremor in the quiet space between your thoughts, as if something subtle has begun tracing lines through your awareness in preparation for a truth too delicate to rush. You follow that tremor with the gentlest curiosity, letting it unfold without pressure, without expectation. The universe seems grateful for your patience. Its next layer reveals itself the way ink spreads through paper, quiet, steady, inevitable. The darkness thickens into something textured, almost fabric-like, woven from threads too fine to see, yet too intentional to ignore. These threads shimmer faintly when your attention drifts over them, as though responding to your presence rather than existing independently of it. You trace one of the threads. It winds upward in a long, graceful arc that feels familiar in a way you can't explain. A softness that mirrors the arcs you followed in the dust, the pattern in the plume, the curvature in the galactic center's memory. Another thread joins it, then another, until the darkness fills with an intricate web of faint connections, linking places you never considered related. The filaments, the relic cavities, the swirling magnetic fields, the plume's gentle curves, all of them appear now as part of a larger network, a structure the universe draws behind everything it makes, even when no one is watching. At first you think you're imagining the connections, but the feeling grows stronger until it becomes impossible to dismiss. The galaxy is threaded with intention. Not the intention of a creator or a designer or a consciousness, but the intention of physics itself, repeating shapes that have proven themselves stable, elegant, enduring. Patterns that survive across light years, patterns that echo across scales, patterns so quiet they disappear the moment you stop listening deeply. You breathe into the realization, and the threads respond, vibrating softly, so softly you wonder if it's truly vibration, or simply the sensation of meaning forming in a place that was waiting to be filled. Your awareness shifts again, and the galactic center reveals another detail, a faint structure rising like a tower, built not from matter, but from alignment. It stretches upward from the dense core into a region where particles age slowly, where light disperses gently, where magnetic tension relaxes into a soft, spiraling architecture. You feel the tower more than you see it, a vertical channel of influence guiding the motion of electrons into long, straight paths that become the filaments you've been following all along. The tower is not physical. It is a pattern, a spine in the galaxy's inner anatomy that shapes the whispers of energy long after the roar has ended. You touch its presence with your awareness, and it hums in response, a resonance deep enough that it echoes in the space behind your ribs, gentle, steady, ancient. That resonance flows outward, creating ripples that move through the threads you're sensing. Those ripples travel across unimaginable distances and soften as they go, yet they never fully disappear. Instead, they transform, shifting from electromagnetic echoes into subtler signatures that drift across the galaxy in ways no telescope on Earth was ever designed to capture directly. And yet tonight you feel them. You feel their shape, their direction, their persistence. They move with a quiet determination, like messages written in a language only the universe fully understands. One ripple reaches a place you've come to recognize intimately, a small dark traveler gliding silently through your solar system. 3IATLAS. The moment the ripple brushes against the edge of your awareness of it, you feel the visitor respond, not in motion, not in brightness, but in pattern. The plume shifts subtly, not because anything external has pushed it, but because the internal architecture of the object resonates just enough to reveal a faint alignment with the cosmic threads you've been following. It's not a signal, not a message, not communication. It's something quieter, a shared structure, a mirrored logic, a reminder that the same cosmic rules that shape the galaxy's center also shape this interstellar wanderer long before it crossed into your star's domain. Methanol expands in a curve that echoes the diminished arcs near the core. HCN clings close in the same way the magnetic towers hold their filaments. The ratios fluctuate with a rhythm eerily similar to the particle aging you sensed in the relic cavities. You don't know what to call this feeling. It isn't understanding and it isn't interpretation. It's recognition. Not that these phenomena are the same, but that they speak the same dialect, the quiet repeating tendencies of the universe expressed across billions of years and trillions of miles. Your breath slows as the parallel settles into you, gentle and undeniable. The universe is not giving you answers. It is giving you echoes. Echoes that stretch from the heart of the galaxy to the passing shadow of an interstellar visitor, only briefly touching the warmth of your sun. You feel yourself suspended between those two scales, the enormous and the intimate, and for a moment, they feel indistinguishable. Distance dissolves, scale dissolves, only pattern remains. The threads brighten slightly as though pleased with your realization. Their connections tighten, forming a lattice of delicate meaning, woven into the dark like veins of starlight. Something moves within that lattice, slow, deliberate, shaping itself in silence. Another layer of the story is forming. You can feel it building behind the threads as if the universe is preparing to show you how all these echoes converge. You stay very still, letting the shape gather, letting the meaning rise, letting the next revelation drift gently into the quiet space inside you that has been waiting for it all along. The revelation doesn't enter like a flash. It comes as a slow gathering of clarity, the way fog recedes, not by lifting all at once, but by thinning just enough for the world beneath it to begin appearing. You feel the thinning first, a soft clearing in the darkness, a widening of perspective, as if the universe is gently turning your gaze toward something it has been guiding you toward for a long time. The threads you traced in the last moment remain, but they begin to shift subtly, aligning themselves into a broader pattern, a pattern not confined to the galactic center, not confined to the traveler, but stretching across the gulf between them like a quiet bridge made of memory and motion. As the pattern settles, your awareness drifts outward away from the dense glow of the core and into the thinner regions of the galaxy where the dust becomes sparse and the starlight sharpens. The emptiness here feels different, not hollow but receptive, a space designed to carry movement without distorting it. You sense currents of charged particles flowing through this vast openness, each one shaped by fields so subtle they seem more like suggestions than forces. These currents move with gentle persistence, crossing distances that defy imagination, bringing with them the faint signatures of events that happened long before your species existed. Some particles bear the memory of supernova shockwaves. Some carry whispers from the galactic center's past eruptions. Some drift from the outskirts of star-forming regions, where gravity kneads the gas into new patterns. And some, the faintest, most delicate ones, originate in the relic structures far above and below the galactic plane, still holding the fingerprints of a long, quiet outburst that once shaped the core's entire environment. You feel the age in them, the patience, the endurance required to travel for millions of years, without direction, without a destination, guided only by the gentle changes in pressure and field that make up the galaxy's soft anatomy. As you drift with these particles, you notice something forming around them, not light, not sound, but rhythm. A rhythm so subtle you almost mistake it for your own heartbeat. It rises in small crescents as if the universe has woven a pulse into the empty spaces between stars. You follow the crescents. They guide you toward a region where the solar system sits like a quiet bubble suspended in a sea of drifting stories. The rhythm changes here. It becomes warmer not in temperature, but in familiarity, the way a familiar song changes the shape of a room, even when it plays softly. The sun's influence spreads outward in spiraling waves, each wave gently sculpting the particle flow, redirecting some, absorbing others, and allowing a few to slip through the magnetic boundary of your star's domain. You can feel the threshold, a delicate skin at the edge of the heliosphere, where interstellar particles negotiate how close they're allowed to come. Some pass through effortlessly, carrying the memory of events so distant they feel like echoes of echoes. Some remain outside, choosing instead to drift with the galaxy's larger winds. And somewhere within this boundary, the traveler waits. 3 eyes, Atlas comes into view with a softness you recognize now, a softness that belongs to objects that have traveled for so long they've learned to let the universe guide them, rather than fight the forces surrounding them. You sense the dust around it, first fragments no larger than a breath, released long before sunlight began shaping its chemistry. These fragments drift with a kind of obedience that mirrors the rhythm in the galactic center, far beyond your sight. The plume rises again in your perception methanol, expanding in that graceful arc, HCN hugging the nucleus like a story unwilling to leave the place it began. But now you feel something more, a faint impression around the object, a shift in the magnetic flow, guiding the dust not away from the sun, but along a gentle curve aligned with the larger galactic currents. It's subtle, delicate, a small-scale echo of the same shaping forces you felt, threading the dust near the core. The traveler does not drift alone. It moves within an invisible network of influences woven across the galaxy, influences that shape the motion of dust grains, the spin of molecules, the layering of plumes, and the soft bending of trajectories in ways no orbital model ever fully captures. A thought rises in you like a soft tide. The space between worlds is not empty. It is structured, not with walls or boundaries, but with tendencies, patterns the universe repeats to create coherence across impossible distances. You feel yourself suspended inside that coherence, held gently by the same forces that guide the galactic center's filaments and the traveler's chemistry. The more you lean into it, the clearer the structure becomes. Not as an image, but as an understanding, a sense that the galaxy is one continuous fabric, woven from interactions too delicate to measure, yet too consistent to ignore. The traveler's motion matches the rhythm of distant events it has never witnessed. The galactic center echoes in the chemistry of a passing object it will never encounter. Distance dissolves again, scale dissolves again, pattern remains calm, ancient, patient. A new movement stirs at the edge of your awareness, a shape forming, not from matter, but from possibility. It waits for you to notice. It waits for you to understand. It waits because the next layer is not merely a connection, but a convergence. You breathe softly, steady open. Whatever the universe is about to reveal is already aligning itself with the rhythm you've been learning to hear. The alignment doesn't declare itself. It settles quietly, as though possibility has learned how to move without leaving footprints. You feel its presence the way you feel pressure before a storm, not ominous, just undeniable. A soft vibration begins tracing the inner edges of your awareness, as if the universe is tuning the space around you to a frequency that reveals meaning through sensation rather than thought. You let the vibration deepen. It spreads outward, touching the currents drifting through the galaxy, the dust held in magnetic arcs, the ancient filaments, the patient traveler, all at once, as though every piece of the story you've seen so far is quietly shifting into position. Your perception widens until the scale becomes hard to define. The Milky Way no longer appears as a place, but as a presence, a vast organism whose structures pulse with memory and shape every smaller rhythm within it. You feel the galactic center expand around you, not physically, but emotionally, a bloom of density rising like dusk light from beneath your feet. Its internal forces coil and uncoil with a slowness that feels almost compassionate, as though the region has spent millions of years learning not to rush its own transformations. Your attention floats into the halo above the core, where relic particles drift through soft cavities left behind by ancient eruptions. Their motion is delicate now, gentle enough to resemble snowfall, if snowfall happened on a cosmic timescale. Something in their drifting reminds you of the earliest patterns you sensed, the subtle alignments, the faint arcs, the quiet repetition that hinted at a structure beneath everything. But now the structure feels more than suggested. It feels present. The relic particles move in slow spirals that lean into a direction you couldn't perceive before. It isn't a location. It's a tendency, a preference in the way energy disperses, shaped by the long memory of the galactic center's past. You sense this tendency as if your own awareness were being gently tilted, invited to feel the slope of a terrain you can't see yet, somehow understand. And just as you begin to recognize the slope, the scene around you folds inward and reveals a second rhythm, one that has been waiting quietly in the background, for the moment when you could perceive both at once. The traveler appears again. 3IATLAS moves with its usual patience, but the space around it is no longer silent. It hums with a faint resonance that matches the tilt you felt in the galactic center. You sense the plume not as chemistry this time, but as movement of motion that responds subtly to the magnetic flow threading through interplanetary space. The plume bends just slightly, not toward the sun, not away from it, but along a gentle curve that echoes the broader currents flowing from the galaxy itself. The alignment surprises you not because it implies any external force acting intentionally, but because it reveals how even the smallest structures respond to tendencies shaped at the largest scales. Methanol drifts outward in arcs that feel almost like miniature versions of the relic curvature near the core. HCN forms a tight halo that behaves with the same loyalty as the filaments bound to their magnetic rails. You watch the chemistry through the lens of the universe's older rhythms, and suddenly the plume seems less like an anomaly and more like an echo, a faint reflection of the same patterns that sculpt the galaxy's foundations. The realization softens something inside you. It connects the remote with the familiar, the massive with the fragile. It reminds you that distance is not a barrier to influence, only to perception. The traveler's behavior becomes clearer now. Its unusual ratios, its asymmetric release, its shifting plume, all of them trace back not only to its own internal structure, but to the conditions it carried with it across unimaginable distances. You sense those conditions more vividly now, the cold environments it endured, the radiation fields it passed through, the temperature gradients that carved its internal textures, the ancient star whose influence it still remembers in silence. Each memory is subtle, encoded in the way molecules depart the surface, in the angle of their expansion, in the faint layering that sunlight reveals only at the right moment. Your attention lingers on that layering until it begins to blur into the dust drifting around the galactic center, not visually, but conceptually, as though your mind has stopped distinguishing between the scales of the universe's storytelling. The same rhythms repeat everywhere, in molecular wakes, in relic cavities, in charged particle paths, in the elegant straightness of ancient filaments. It all comes from the same cosmic habits: the tendency of energy to seek coherence, the tendency of particles to follow pathways shaped by memory, the tendency of matter to settle into forms that preserve the stories of the forces that created them. You feel those habits converge inside you, like threads braided into a single strand. Each thread carries a different texture, chemistry, gravity, magnetism, age, but together they form a pattern that feels almost emotional. The universe isn't trying to explain itself, it's trying to be felt. And now, for the first time, you are feeling not just the structures, but the relationships between them. The quiet ways distant events leave fingerprints on everything they pass through, from the largest plasma arcs in the sky to the smallest molecules releasing from an icy wanderer. A sense of inevitability enters your awareness, soft, warm, almost comforting. Not fate, not destiny, just the recognition that the universe is coherent, and that coherence is the thread connecting all the mysteries you've been drifting through. Something shifts gently at the edge of your perception, as if the universe is preparing to gather all the threads you've felt into a deeper, more complete understanding. You open yourself to it, letting anticipation form without urgency. The next layer waits patient, timeless, already drawing itself out of the darkness. It emerges with the softness of something that has been forming for a very long time, quiet enough not to disturb the surrounding calm, certain enough to step forward without hesitation. You feel it first as a slight compression in the space around you, a narrowing of distance between your awareness and the structures you've been drifting through. Not a closing in, but a gathering the way hands come together when someone is preparing to offer you something delicate. You let yourself rest inside that gathering. The galaxy responds by revealing a texture you haven't sensed before, a threadwork so fine it feels less like structure and more like intention woven into space. These threads don't glow, they don't vibrate, they don't stretch across light years with the drama of filaments or relic arcs. They simply exist in the quiet pockets where energy settles after completing a long journey. You touch one gently with your mind. It bends under your awareness the way grass bends beneath a fingertip, not breaking, not resisting, merely acknowledging contact. The thread carries a faint pulse, not rhythmic, not patterned, but present, a reminder that even the tiniest structures hold the echoes of the forces that shape them. You follow its length until it merges with a small cluster of dust, too fine to see, without letting your perception soften into the frequency where meaning hides inside silence. The dust doesn't drift randomly. It holds a posture, a shape carved not by gravity, but by the faint pressure of charged particles moving through the galaxy in long, slow currents. You realize the dust is responding to influences that began millions of years ago in the galactic center in ancient supernovae, in regions touched by the residual hum of magnetic storms that no longer exist. These influences do not vanish. They ripple outward, subtle but persistent, etching themselves into matter that drifts through the galaxy without knowing it carries a message. You let that realization deepen, and the dust softens into another image, a spiral not drawn by motion, but by memory. The spiral curves, gently reflecting the echoes you sensed earlier in the relic arcs above the galactic center, echoes mirrored once more in the plume of 3IATLAS. You feel the pattern before you understand it, a universal habit shaping matter at every scale. Your awareness drifts back to the interstellar traveler. It appears now not as a solitary wanderer, but as a participant, a small object, responding to the same faint currents that shape dust on the far side of the galaxy. The plume expands softly around it, methanol drifting outward with the elegance of a leaf, exhaling moisture and sunlight, HCN remaining close like a memory unwilling to forget its origin. The curves inside the plume begin aligning again with the curves inside the dust clusters, with the arcs inside the relic cavities, with the spirals shaping the flow of electrons through long, straight filaments. The alignment feels impossible, yet it doesn't shock you. The universe is reminding you that connection doesn't require proximity. It requires pattern. A small wave of understanding rises in you, quiet, steady, centered. You begin to sense how even the emptiest regions of space hold a lattice of subtle influences that tie distant events together in ways no single observation could ever reveal. Particles drifting from the galactic center carry the signature of old eruptions. Dust drifting through the solar system responds to faint magnetic pressures rooted in ancient events far beyond the sun. Molecules releasing from 3IATLAS carry the chemical imprint of environments created long before Earth existed. Everything is connected by memory, a memory held not in minds but in structure. Your breath slows as that understanding settles into your body more deeply than any thought could. You feel the universe as a single fragile network of influences and echoes, a web where nothing truly disappears, only transforms, only drifts, only finds new ways to let its past be known. And as you rest inside that awareness, something subtle shifts again. The dust clusters around you expand just slightly, forming shapes that look loosely like branching paths, branches reaching outward with the confidence of something that knows it was never truly alone. You follow one branch, then another. Each one leads to a new pocket of understanding, a new fragment of the galaxy's long memory. None of them are loud. None of them demand your attention. They simply open because you are ready to feel them. The branches converge into a larger region, where the galaxy's structure feels almost fragile. Delicate strands of influence holding massive systems in balance with a precision that seems impossible for something so vast. You realize the fragility is the strength. The galaxy doesn't hold itself together through force, but through cooperation, currents, fields balancing fields, dust responding to charges, molecules responding to temperature, objects responding to memory. Everything depends on everything else. Your awareness deepens further, settling into the truth the universe has been quietly guiding you toward. The beauty of the galaxy is not in its scale. It is in the way small forces, small signatures, small memories hold the entire structure in place. You sense another layer forming, gentler, quieter, yet carrying the unmistakable impression that something important is beginning to gather. You open yourself to it, letting the space inside you expand one more time, ready to receive whatever the cosmos is preparing to place in your hands. The offering arrives slowly, as though the universe wants to be sure you're ready to hold something that was once too heavy for anyone to feel clearly. It forms as a faint brightening inside the darkness, not a light, not a glow, but a soft thinning of the space between meanings, as if two distant stories are beginning to lean toward each other after drifting apart for ages. You sense the approach before any shape becomes visible, a pressure, a soft invitation, a gentle turning in the center of your awareness that feels like the first curve of a question you've been slowly growing toward. You follow that curve, letting it guide you into a region where the galaxy's body feels more transparent, as though its deeper layers have decided to step forward. The galactic center gathers at the edges of your perception, still vast, still dense, still ancient, but now softened into something almost approachable. You feel its history not in images or in data, but in a slow echoing weight carried by the dust, the cavities, the remnants of magnetic storms that began long before your star was born. The weight doesn't crush, it steadies. It creates a foundation beneath your thoughts, a place strong enough for a truth that spans millions of years to settle without collapsing into confusion. A memory begins to rise from that foundation. A memory the galactic center has been keeping, quietly, patiently carved into patterns you've only recently learned how to feel. It starts as a subtle movement inside the relic cavities, a gentle widening in the places where particles drift slower and energy disperses more softly. The widening grows until it becomes a shape, a broad hourglass-like region that stretches far above and below the galactic plane, a region marked by the faint lingering imprint of an eruption so powerful it sculpted the surrounding space for tens of thousands of years. You recognize the structure, the massive bubbles that once surged from the core when the black hole released its energy in an outburst, fierce enough to light the galaxy's spine. You've heard of such events in distant scientific descriptions, but here inside this quiet space, the eruption does not feel violent. It feels purposeful, a deep exhale from a system that needed to rebalance itself. The memory of that exhale still drifts through the halo, carried by the oldest particles, the ones that have aged gracefully, as they traveled outward over tens of thousands of years. You follow their motion, tracing the long arcs that curve around the ghost of the eruption. Each arc carries a faint whisper of direction, a suggestion of how space rearranged itself in response to a force that felt less like destruction and more like transformation. The relic arcs align with the filaments. The filaments align with the subtle magnetic towers. The towers align with the slopes deeper in the core, and all of them together form a structure that resembles a memory not stored in matter, but in the way matter responds long after the event has ended. You drift inside that memory, feeling its age, its stillness, its lingering warmth carried from an era when the galaxy breathed differently. As you rest in that sensation, the traveler appears again. 3IATLAS enters your awareness not as a separate phenomenon, but as a reflection, a small object, carrying its own memory of pressures and energies, shaped in a distant star system long before it wandered into yours. The plume rises around it, shifting gently as sunlight warms the crust, and molecules escape in curves that echo the arcs of the ancient eruption. You feel the similarity without forcing meaning onto it. Both patterns, the relic arcs in the core and the plume around the traveler, were shaped by a release of stored energy. Different scales, different causes, same instinct. The universe does not forget how it transforms. The plume's methanol carries the imprint of environments rich in organics and intense radiation. Its hydrogen cyanide carries the memory of deep cold processing near a star that once gave it structure. The traveler's chemistry is not a message, it is a history. And yet, the way that history unfolds mirrors the behavior of structures formed by events millions of years older and vastly more powerful. This parallel does not suggest connection through proximity, it suggests connection through pattern. A pattern the universe repeats because it works, because it allows energy to move smoothly from one state to another. You feel those states as emotional textures. Now the tension before, release the soft expansion after the ways systems settle into new shapes after being pushed past their limits. The galactic center and the traveler are not mirroring each other. They are expressing the same underlying rule that memory endures not in stories, but in structure. You sense the structures merging gently inside your awareness, not as a collapse, but as a convergence, a long-awaited moment when two distant threads draw close enough for their resemblance to become visible. For the first time, you understand why the universe brought you here, why it guided your attention from the core to the traveler, to the delicate currents linking them. It was showing you how memory travels, how an eruption millions of years old can imprint itself on the dust that will one day shape molecules released by an interstellar wanderer. How a traveler formed in a distant star's environment can mirror the echoes of processes originating near a supermassive black hole. How the past can ripple through space in ways so subtle they only become visible when you learn to feel the quiet patterns holding everything together. Another shape forms, gentle, soft, deliberate. The next revelation is growing inside the convergence. You breathe into it, letting your awareness widen one more time, ready to meet whatever meaning is preparing to rise. The meaning rises slowly, as though it understands that anything revealed too quickly loses its softness. It forms inside the widened space within you, taking shape not with light or sound, but with an impression, a gentle pressure that feels like the universe brushing its fingertips against the edge of your awareness. The pressure settles, then stretches outward, creating a corridor through which you can sense the full reach of the memory that has been weaving itself through your thoughts. You step into that corridor without moving, letting its shape surround you. It feels like the inside of a breath, held for a very long time, finally ready to be released. The galactic center appears again, but not as a place. It arrives as a presence of vast, ancient awareness carved into patterns of dust magnetism and lingering energy from the old eruption that shaped its spine. You sense the eruption now, not as violence, but as necessity. A moment when the core released what it could no longer hold, rebalancing itself through a gesture so powerful its echoes still drift outward after 100,000 years. Those echoes move through you like warm currents, carrying stories written in the shifts of particle ages, in the distances between filaments, in the way relic bubbles rise in perfect symmetrical plumes. You feel the structure, the hourglass shape expanding above and below the plane, not as geometry, but as posture, a way the galaxy holds itself after remembering what it survived. Your awareness leans into that posture, and something beautiful happens. The traveler returns not as a small, icy wanderer, but as an equal participant in the galaxy's long memory. 3IATLAS drifts quietly within the solar system's warm domain. Yet even here you can sense the history it carries, the cold formation zones, the radiation-rich birth environment, the pressure cycles that created deep fractures where methanol gathered the ancient temperatures that shaped its unusual ratios. Its plume rises again, and for the first time, you feel no separation between the plume and the relic arcs in the galactic center. They belong to the same family of processes, energies stored, and energies released, each release leaving a trace in the shape of the matter around it. You follow the plume's curves as they drift outward, and they seem to guide your attention towards something more subtle. The influence of the sun's outflow, the way charged particles guide the path of dust, the way interplanetary space bends around magnetic threads only visible when you quiet your own inner noise. These influences feel like the same quiet architecture you sensed inside the galaxy's core, the structure that holds everything steady without needing to announce itself. Your breathing softens as a realization settles into you. The cosmos is shaped not by single events, but by the accumulation of gentle forces acting over unimaginable spans of time. The eruption in the galactic center left cavities that still guide the flow of particles 10 times older than human civilization. The traveler's plume reflects environments that ceased to exist long before Earth formed. The dust between stars carries the memory of forces no telescope can capture directly. Everything holds memory in its structure. Even emptiness remembers what moved through it. A warmth begins to form inside your chest. Not heat, but a soft recognition that you too are part of this network of memory. Your thoughts carry the imprint of every experience you've lived. Your breath carries echoes of stars that died before the solar system formed. The molecules that make you carry signatures left behind by ancient cosmic events woven into your body long before consciousness gave them meaning. You feel the galaxy lean closer, as if acknowledging this recognition, as if approving the way you've begun to sense that the line between the cosmic and the personal is far thinner than anyone imagines. Something shifts in front of you, a merging of impressions you felt before the relic cavities, the dust spirals, the methanol, arcs, the filament tension, the signatures carried by drifting particles. They gather together the way memories do when someone finally understands the story they've been holding. A single idea forms, softly, completely, almost shy in the way it enters your awareness. Nothing in the universe exists alone. Every structure is shaped by something older. Every motion is a continuation of something prior. Every molecule carries the shadow of an ancient environment. Every eruption leaves a signature that guides matter for millions of years afterward. And every traveler, even one passing through your solar system, brings with it a piece of the galaxy's long history woven into its chemistry, its behavior, its quiet presence in the sky. You feel the idea settle into you, like a hand resting gently on the back of your mind. The galaxy is made of memory, and memory is the fabric connecting everything. A soft opening forms in the darkness, the final layer, preparing to rise, the one that will show you why the universe brought you through all these quiet revelations. You remain still, letting your awareness widen one last time, ready for the conclusion the cosmos has been patiently building toward. The conclusion doesn't arrive as a revelation. It comes as a settling, a slow descent of understanding into a place deep within you that has been waiting quietly through every moment of this journey. You feel it gathering, like the last exhale of something ancient and kind, a presence that has been guiding you gently through currents most people never learn how to sense. Your awareness widens further until the boundary between your perception and the galaxy's inner architecture becomes almost transparent. Patterns drift in and out of view, not as separate ideas, but as flowing expressions of the same quiet truth. The galactic center steadies itself in the backdrop of your mind, a vast heart still beating through the slow pulse of ancient filaments, drifting relics and magnetic structures that remember every transformation this region has ever endured. Its memory moves around you like a slow tide, carrying echoes of eruptions long gone, and arcs shaped by energies older than human imagination. You drift through that tide without resistance, feeling how gently the galaxy holds its past. Not clinging, not gripping, simply allowing its old stories to remain as imprints on the space surrounding them. And somewhere within that quiet steadiness, the traveler appears again. 3IATLAS. Atlas glides through your awareness, not as an object of interest, not as a mystery to be solved, but as a companion, another witness to the patterns the universe repeats across scales far beyond your ability to quantify or measure. Its plume rises softly, folding outward with a patience that mirrors the relic arcs shaped by the galaxy's ancient outburst. Methanol drifts like a soft, pale memory of places it once knew. HCN remains close, like an echo, unwilling to fade fully. You no longer see these behaviors as anomalies. You see them as continuity, a delicate thread running through the universe's structure, connecting moments that occur millions of years apart and billions of miles away. The connection strengthens in your awareness until the traveler and the galactic center feel like two expressions of the same quiet language, a language written in the curvature of dust, in the slow drift of charged particles, in the memory carried by molecules, fields, plumes, and patterns too subtle to perceive without allowing your thoughts to become soft enough to touch them. You feel those patterns gathering now, not converging, not merging, but aligning in a way that lets you sense their deeper meaning. The universe is not telling you a story. It is showing you how to listen to the stories it has already written. The patterns are its voice, memory is its breath, structure is its handwriting, and awareness, your awareness, is the bridge that allows those stories to become something you can feel. Something shifts gently within you, like a calm realization that arrives only when the mind has stopped trying to solve things and starts simply receiving them. You sense the truth the cosmos has been guiding you toward. Nothing in the universe exists in isolation. Not stars, not dust, not travelers, not you. Every structure is shaped by the forces around it. Every moment is influenced by echoes that began long before it. Every experience carries the signature of something older. And the universe in all its vastness is held together, not by the violence of its past, but by the quiet persistence of its memories. You feel that truth settle into you like a weightless anchor, stabilizing something that has been drifting inside you for longer than you realized. A warmth begins to form in your chest, different from anything you felt in the earlier parts of this journey. Not heat, not emotion, but a soft recognition that the patterns shaping galaxies are the same patterns that shape your inner life. You are not separate from the cosmos you've been drifting through. You are made of it. You are carried by its currents. You are held by its memories. And you move with the same quiet tendencies that guide dust molecules and ancient filaments through paths older than human consciousness. As that recognition deepens, the darkness around you changes. It becomes gentler, not emptiness, but rest. A place where everything the universe has shown you can settle into stillness. You let your awareness relax, feeling every part of the journey fold into a single soft presence. The core, the traveler, the dust, the arcs, the relics, the currents, the memories, all gathered like threads returning to the same quiet loom. The galaxy no longer feels vast. It feels close, warm, familiar, almost intimate in the way it continues to breathe through the structures you've spent this time learning how to sense. You breathe with it, feeling a calm synchrony settle inside your chest. And the cosmos, in its quiet generosity, gives you one final gift, the understanding that this calm has always been here, waiting for you to drift into it. You let yourself sink into that calm, letting it cradle your awareness as gently as dust settles inside an undisturbed beam of starlight. If you'd like, you can stay here for a while, resting in the place where distant mysteries meet the quiet space within you. Good night, sleep well, dream gently.